It was 11:03 p.m. I still remember the exact time because I had just tossed my greasy work shirt into the hamper, cracked my knuckles, and sunk into the couch with a sigh that felt like it came from my soul. My phone buzzed. Call from Harper, weird. My younger sister never called this late. We weren't exactly close. She usually texted me once a week with emojis and vague requests like, "Ugh, life is so stressful, can you help me with something?" But this time, she was calling. I rubbed my temples, muttered "what now?" and answered. Hello? No reply. Just background noise. Laughter, clinking glasses. Voices overlapping in the kind of easy, drunk chaos that usually smells like spilled wine and fake smiles. It was a party. I wasn't invited. No surprise there. I was just about to hang up when a voice sliced through the static. My mother's. "Can you believe Talia still thinks she's helping us?" "Talia, that's me." I froze. Then Harper's voice, dripping sarcasm. "She acts like she's some sort of savior, like we'd be on the street without her. Please." Then came Ethan, my older brother, master of mediocrity, full-time mooch. Technically, we would be. But that's her job, isn't it? She doesn't have kids. No partner. No mortgage. What else is she gonna do with her salary? The laughter that followed, it physically hurt, like someone sucker punched me through the speaker. I stayed frozen, holding the phone, not breathing. "She doesn't help because she's kind," Mom added, voice like sharpened ice. "She helps because we made her. She owes us." I felt a slow crawl of heat rush up my neck. My jaw clenched. My heart slammed behind my ribs like it was trying to escape my chest. "Owes you? She got a raise, right?" Harper's voice piped up again. "Then yeah, she can afford to pay more. Rent's just the bare minimum. Don't forget groceries, bills, Wi-Fi, Netflix, and Mom's massage membership," Ethan added, laughing like it was all just so funny. "She's so selfish," Harper continued. "No social life, no hobbies, just her boring job. She could at least do more." They weren't talking about helping each other. They were talking about bleeding me dry, like I was some faceless donor from a charity fund they never applied to. It was entitlement, not gratitude. And I just sat there, listening, as the people I bent over backwards for treated me like a joke with a credit card. "We need to talk to her soon," Mom said casually. "The landlord's upping the rent. She'll have to cover it." And she's gonna make that face again," Harper groaned. "That fake I can't afford it act. She's got savings." "She'll cave," Ethan said with a smug snort. "She always does. She's terrified of saying no." They laughed again, that same cruel, casual laughter. That was the moment I knew. They didn't respect me. They didn't even like me. I wasn't family to them. I was a walking, talking financial safety net, so I made a decision. Not then, not loud, not with anger. I stayed silent. Let them keep laughing. Let them believe I was still the doormat in the dark. But I pressed the phone tighter to my ear. Because if they thought I was predictable, if they thought I'd keep doing this forever, they were about to learn the hard way that I was done playing savior. Then Harper laughed again, sharp and mean. "Remember when she tried to say no once? That little meltdown?" She folded in like, "What, 2 days?" "We hit her with the guilt script," Ethan said proudly. "Worked like a charm. She's too soft," Mom added. "And that's why we always win." I didn't even feel my own nails digging into my palms. My whole body was shaking, but I said nothing, because I was learning something important. They were never going to stop. Not unless I stopped them. That's when Mom's voice lowered, syrupy and scheming. "Let's give her the new rent increase story this weekend. Ethan, try the wear barely surviving line. Harper, you do the cry thing again." "I've been practicing," Harper said cheerily. "Should I wear the hoodie? It makes me look more pitiful." I'd heard enough. I pulled the phone away from my ear, stared at the screen for a moment, and then brought it back. "Hey," I said, calm as a winter morning. The line went dead. Just like that click. No apology. No, "Oh my God, I didn't know you were on the line." Not even a pathetic attempt at covering their asses. They heard my voice and panicked. Hung up like children caught breaking something they weren't supposed to touch. And that silence? That was the moment I knew I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't being overly sensitive. I had the proof. And now I had a plan. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. My brain wouldn't stop replaying every single word. Each laugh, each smug jab, each little reminder that I was never seen as a person in that house, just a resource. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the same ceramic mug I used every morning like it might give me answers. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the fridge and my own restless thoughts. My family had always needed me, or at least that's what they convinced me to believe. Rent short this month? Talia's got it. Grocery bill a little steep. Talia'll handle it. Electricity, water, phone plans, new furniture for mental health. All me. They framed it as love, as what families do. But that night pulled the curtain all the way back. It wasn't love, it was a racket. A scam I'd been buying into for years. So I didn't react, not outwardly. I sent Harper a quick text before bed, something neutral. Sorry, phone bugged out earlier. Everything okay? She replied with a casual LOL. Yeah, just a bad signal. We weren't even saying anything important. Liar. But I played along because if they thought I hadn't heard anything, they'd keep thinking I was the same gullible sister they'd always leaned on. That was the point. If I wanted to pull this off, I had to give them what they expected until I was ready to burn it all down. The next few days were easy. Too easy. They were texting like nothing had happened. Harper sent me screenshots of clothes she wanted but couldn't afford. Ethan sent me a pic of a cracked phone screen with the caption, "Guess what died today?" Mom sent her usual, "Love you, sweetheart." Just checking in. It would have been funny if it wasn't so infuriating. The entitlement practically oozed from every message. But I kept my responses short, friendly, just enough to keep up the illusion. Meanwhile, the first started preparing. First, I logged into the rental account and removed my automatic payments. Just like that. One click and I was out. I didn't even flinch. Then I pulled up every receipt from the past 2 years. Rent, utilities, groceries, you name it. I put it all into a spreadsheet just to remind myself of how deep I was in. Over $42,000. That's what I'd given them. No interest. No strings. Just handed it over like it meant nothing. I stared at that number for a long time. That wasn't support. That was servitude. I wasn't going to ask for it back. That's not what this was about. I didn't want repayment. I wanted freedom. And maybe, just maybe, I wanted them to feel what I had felt: panic, fear, powerlessness. The emotional kind of poverty that eats at your pride. I didn't want them to suffer. I wanted them to finally understand what it means to carry a burden alone. The weekend came quickly. They had already asked me to stop by. Nothing serious, just a quick chat, Harper had said, pretending it was casual. I knew exactly what it was. They were setting the stage for the new rent increase pitch. So I played my part, drove over that Saturday with a smile on my face and nothing in my wallet for them. The house looked the same, bright, over-decorated, clean in the way expensive things are clean. Smelled like cinnamon candles and takeout from a place I couldn't afford when I was living paycheck to paycheck. I stepped inside, letting the door close behind me. Harper was on the couch with her phone. Ethan was halfway through a sandwich that cost more than I made in an hour. And Mom? She was already in character. "Sweetheart," she said, standing up to hug me. "We're so glad you could come. We were just chatting about life and, well, we wanted to talk to you about something." I nodded, keeping my tone warm. "Sure. What's going on?" Mom sighed, the way she always did when she was about to ask for something big. "The landlord's raising rent again," she said, eyes wide with worry that didn't quite reach her voice. "It's a lot this time, like several hundred, and we're just struggling." Harper jumped in fast, like it's not just rent, you know? It's everything. Utilities, food, my car is acting up again. "It's just a lot," Ethan added his own flair. "We're not asking for much, just until we get back on our feet." I pretended to consider it, letting the silence stretch just enough to make them squirm. "How much more are we talking?" I finally asked. Mom exchanged a glance with Harper. "Maybe $400 more, just for a little while." I tilted my head slightly, like I was calculating. "I'll see what I can do," I said. And just like that, the tension broke. Harper let out a sigh of relief. "You're seriously the best." Ethan clapped me on the back. "Knew we could count on you." But they didn't know. They didn't know I had already cut the cord. They didn't know this was the last time I'd step foot in that house, pretending we were family. I smiled, nodded, and walked back out like everything was fine. Over the next week, I barely spoke to them, just enough to keep the peace. A few texts, an emoji or two, nothing that would tip them off. And while they were bragging about brunch and movie nights, I was sitting at home watching it all crumble from a distance. I got a call on Thursday, Mom, again. I let it ring twice before answering. "Hey," I said. Calm, measured. "Hi, sweetheart," she said, voice unusually tight. "So, we just got a notice from the landlord. Apparently the rent hasn't been paid?" I let the silence sit for a second too long. "Yeah, that's right," I said finally. I stopped paying. It was dead quiet on the other end. "Wait, what?" "I don't understand," she said, trying to laugh like it was a mistake. "I thought we agreed." "No," I interrupted gently. "You assumed. I never said yes. I just said I'd see what I could do." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "But we're in trouble. Like, real trouble. We can't afford this." "That's not my responsibility anymore," I said. And for the first time in a long time, I actually meant it. She started spinning, fast. "You can't just abandon your family like this." After everything, I cut in. "You mean the years I paid your bills while you laughed behind my back? You mean how you called me selfish, boring, useless, unless you needed money?" "That everything?" Her voice faltered. "We didn't mean it like that. But you said it. All of you did." I kept my voice even. No yelling, no drama. "And now you're shocked I'm done? You're lucky all I did was walk away." She tried one more time, her voice breaking. "Please, Talia. Just this month, please." I sighed. Not angry, not vengeful, just tired. "You taught me family means giving everything without question. But I finally learned that real family doesn't let you drown while they float." I didn't wait for a response. I hung up. Then I blocked her number. And in that silence, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. By the time I blocked her number, my hands weren't shaking anymore. That was the first sign I knew I'd finally done the right thing. For so long, saying no to them felt like betrayal, like I was the one abandoning them. But in that moment, all I felt was relief. No anger, no guilt. Just a long overdue release from the weight I'd been carrying for years. I stood up, grabbed a glass of water, and looked around my apartment. It wasn't much. Small kitchen, secondhand couch, plain walls with nothing but a thrift store painting, and a couple of old Polaroids. But it was mine. Everything in here came from hours of hard work, late nights, and self-sacrifice. Nothing was handed to me. And yet, somehow, they had the audacity to act like I owed them more. Like my very existence was a debt they were collecting on. The silence stretched on for 2 days. 2 full days without a single text or call. At first, I thought maybe they'd finally gotten the message. That maybe, just maybe, they were sitting with it, letting it sink in. But that hope died fast. On the 3rd day, my email pinged. Subject line, "Emergency, please read." It was from Ethan. He never emailed me. So I knew it had to be serious. I opened it, scrolled past the greetings and excuses, and landed on the important part. "We're being threatened with eviction. We don't have the money." Mom's freaking out. Harper's crying. "Please, if you can just help us cover this month, we'll figure it out after." That last line made me laugh out loud. "We'll figure it out after." That's what they always said. After what? After they max out another credit card? After another spa day? After another vacation they had to book in advance? They never figured anything out. They just passed it to me like a hot potato, then cried victim when I got burned. I didn't respond. I archived the email and kept going. The next morning, I got a voicemail from Harper. She didn't even try to hide the panic in her voice. "Talia, I know you're upset, but this isn't fair. We really need you right now. I'm begging you, please don't let us lose the house." That was rich. Lose the house? They called it their house, but it wasn't. Not financially, not practically, not emotionally. It was the house I paid for, the one I was never invited to feel at home in. The house where my name didn't exist on any wall, where every framed picture had me conveniently cropped out. But now that the bills came knocking, suddenly I was part of the family again. Still, I stayed quiet. Every hour that passed without a response from me made the knot in their stomachs twist tighter. I could feel it. And I didn't enjoy their suffering, not in the cruel way they might have. But I also wasn't going to cushion the blow. They needed to feel the consequences of their choices. Not just financially, but emotionally. They needed to know that bridges can burn, that people have limits, that even the ones who love the hardest can one day wake up and walk away without a single backward glance. On Friday, the dam broke. I came home from work to find a message from an unknown number. It was Mom. She'd gotten a burner phone or borrowed someone else's. I didn't care. Her message was short but frantic. Talia, we got the official eviction notice. We have 7 days. I'm scared. We're scared. Please, honey, call me. For a second, my old reflex kicked in. That tiny flicker of panic that used to rush in and convince me I had to fix it. That it was my job. That if I didn't save them, something terrible would happen. But then I remembered the sound of their laughter, the way they mocked me behind my back, the smugness in Ethan's voice, the bitterness in Harper's tone, the way Mom twisted everything to make herself the victim. I remembered the way they planned their performance. Who would cry? Who would sigh? What excuse would work best? I remembered the exact moment they thought I wasn't listening. And just like that, the flicker died. That weekend, I went to a local farmer's market, bought fresh flowers, made myself a home-cooked meal, called a friend I hadn't seen in a while, and spent hours catching up. I didn't check my phone once. I knew what would be waiting: voicemails, messages, digital guilt bombs. But I'd spent so long putting their needs before mine that it felt good to reclaim my time, even if it was just for a day. Monday came, and I finally decided to listen to one of the voicemails. Just one. It was Harper again. Her voice was hoarse, like she'd been crying. I know we messed up, okay? I know we took advantage. But this is serious. We don't have anyone else. You were always the strong one. Please, just talk to us. Something about that voicemail stuck with me. Not because it made me feel guilty, but because for the first time she admitted it. She admitted they'd used me, that they knew exactly what they were doing. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was intentional, and they would have kept doing it forever if I hadn't stopped them. That night, I made a decision. Not to go back, not to forgive, but to make sure this was the last time I ever had to deal with it. I sent a single message in our old family group chat. Just 10 words. I hope you figure it out. This is goodbye. Then I left the group, blocked them all, deleted the chat, and just like that, I was done. No more last-minute deposits. No more guilt-laced phone calls. No more being the emotional punching bag for a family that only remembered my name when the bills showed up. It wasn't revenge in the dramatic sense. I didn't scream. I didn't expose them on social media or air our dirty laundry. I didn't need to. Because their downfall was already in motion, and I didn't have to lift a finger. I heard from a mutual friend weeks later that they were officially out of the house. The landlord didn't give them a second chance. They'd maxed out their cards and couldn't cover first and last on a new place. They moved in with one of Mom's cousins, a woman she used to call trashy and unbearable. Life has a way of humbling people when you least expect it. And as for me, I was finally free. I started sleeping better, woke up without that dull anxiety in my chest. I had extra money every month, and for the first time in years, I spent it on myself. A new pair of running shoes, a weekend trip out of town, a cooking class I'd always wanted to try but couldn't afford because someone else's bills were more urgent. Freedom didn't come with fireworks. It came quietly, with peace, with silence, with knowing I didn't owe anyone anything. I wasn't the villain. I was the escape artist, the one who got out. It had been just over a month since I cut them off completely. No calls, no texts, no fake updates about their struggles or guilt-tripping birthday messages. The silence didn't just sit there, it echoed. At first, it was a little eerie, like waking up and realizing the buzzing in your ears had stopped, but you're not sure why. But after the third week, the silence started to feel like peace, like healing. I hadn't realized how much noise they brought into my life until it was gone. How every interaction with them used to leave me with this invisible weight, like I'd just carried a full shopping bag on one arm too long and forgot what it felt like to walk free. I thought maybe they'd finally moved on, that they'd found someone else to latch onto, or maybe just accepted the consequences and figured things out for themselves. I even let myself believe that I might never hear from them again. But of course, that was naive. People like them don't change just because they've hit a wall. They just start looking for windows. It started small, a random email from a name I didn't recognize. Just a few words. Please contact your mother. It's urgent. I deleted it. Then a letter showed up in my mailbox. Handwritten, neat cursive. The kind Mom used when she was trying to appear elegant, even when she was full of venom. The envelope had no return address, but I knew who it was from before I even opened it. Inside, the tone was exactly what I expected. Dramatic, emotional, hollow. "Sweetheart, I don't know what happened to you. We've always loved you. Please don't let this little misunderstanding ruin everything." She called it a misunderstanding, not manipulation, not betrayal. A misunderstanding, like I had misheard their laughter or misunderstood their entitlement. I tore the letter in half and threw it out without a second thought. A week later, I got a call from my dad. He was the quiet one in the background of our family drama. Never the ringleader, but never the ally either. Always the man who sat in his chair, nodded along, and told me, "Just keep the peace." His voice cracked when I answered. I should have let it go to voicemail, but something in me was curious. "Talia," he said, like he'd been holding his breath. "It's bad. Your mom's not doing well. Harper and Ethan are barely scraping by. Can't you just help until they get back on their feet?" I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I just waited. He kept going, filling the space with stories I didn't ask for, about how they were eating canned food, how the cousin they were staying with had started charging them rent, how they'd sold off furniture to make ends meet. "They're suffering," he said quietly, like he thought that would matter to me. "And you think that's my responsibility?" I asked. My voice wasn't angry. It was calm, chilling, even to me. "After everything they said, everything they planned, you want me to just forget that?" He stammered, said he didn't know all the details. I cut him off. "Don't call me again." Then I hung up. He didn't try again. It took them another 2 weeks to figure out a new tactic. This time, it was social media. Harper posted a long, emotional note on her profile. It was vague enough not to name me, but specific enough that everyone who knew us could read between the lines. It hurts when people you trust abandon you, when family turns cold, when all you asked for was support and got silence. I didn't comment, I didn't message, but I saw it, and I watched as mutuals chimed in with their sympathy. "Stay strong, girl. Some people just don't understand what family means. Karma always comes back around." I should have been mad, but all I felt was exhaustion. They were still playing the same game, just with a new audience. Still performing, still twisting the narrative. I'd spent years being the villain in their house whenever I set a boundary. Now I was the villain online too, and you know what? That was fine. Let them tell their stories. Let them cry to strangers about their hardships. Let them paint me as heartless. I didn't need to defend myself anymore, because the truth never needed applause. It just needed time. What they didn't realize was that while they were scrambling to find someone else to lean on, I had started building something real. I got a promotion at work, moved to a nicer apartment with more sunlight and space for the garden I'd always wanted. I started therapy, weekly sessions that helped me unpack years of guilt and conditioning. My therapist once said something that stuck with me. She looked at me and asked, "Who benefits when you feel responsible for everyone?" I sat with that question for days. Who benefits? Not me. Definitely not me. I'd been the designated caretaker, the emotional landfill where everyone dumped their problems. And the moment I stopped absorbing their mess, they made it my fault. Like I had broken some unspoken contract by choosing myself. Months passed. The messages stopped coming. I heard through a distant cousin that they'd been officially kicked out of the cousin's house too. Apparently there was a fight about money and boundaries. Ironic, right? The cousin had drawn a line and they reacted the same way they always did. With drama, with tears, with blame. Eventually, they moved into a motel on the edge of town. Harper picked up part-time work at a coffee shop. Ethan started doing odd jobs for cash. Mom kept trying to find someone to feel sorry for her. But sympathy has a short shelf life when it's repeated too often. People stop listening when the same story keeps getting told with a new villain each time. I could have reached out, could have offered help just to show I was the bigger person, but I didn't. Because being the bigger person doesn't mean becoming a doormat again. It means knowing when to walk away and when to stay gone. One morning, I sat on my balcony with a cup of coffee, looking out at the quiet city skyline. The sun was just breaking through the clouds, painting the sky in gold and pink and orange. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was exactly where I was meant to be. Not because everything was perfect, but because I was no longer running on empty, trying to feed everyone else. That's when the final message came, an email. Subject, we're sorry. I opened it. It was signed by all three of them. Short, apologetic, hollow. They said they realized they were wrong, that they missed me, that things hadn't been the same since I left, that they didn't expect money, just a conversation, just a chance, just one. I didn't delete it. I didn't respond either. I just closed the tab and stared at my reflection in the dark screen, not out of spite, not out of revenge, but because I had finally understood something so simple and so freeing. Just because someone apologizes doesn't mean you have to let them back in. Just because someone regrets their actions doesn't mean they deserve your energy. Some doors close quietly, some bridges burn without smoke, and sometimes the best kind of closure is no reply at all. A few weeks passed after the apology email, and I thought maybe they'd finally accepted that silence was my answer. But people like them rarely take silence for what it is. To them, silence is just an obstacle they haven't manipulated yet, not a boundary that deserves respect. I was walking home from the bookstore when I noticed someone standing outside my building. At first, I didn't recognize her. She was thinner than I remembered, her posture smaller somehow, like the weight of everything had finally started pressing in. It was Harper. She spotted me and froze. I stopped a few feet away. She opened her mouth to say something but didn't know where to start. I didn't help her. I waited, silent. Finally, she spoke, voice soft like she was afraid it would crack if she raised it too loud. I just wanted to see you. I didn't know what else to do. I stayed still, calm. You could have not come. Her eyes dropped to the pavement. We really screwed up. I know that. And I'm not here to ask for money, I swear. I don't know who we are without you. That sentence hit in a strange way. Not because it was touching, but because it was honest. They had built their identity around leaning on me. I was the fixer, the funder, the fallback. Without me, they were adrift. And instead of building something new, they kept trying to paddle back to me. I looked at Harper, at the worn-out hoodie, the cheap sneakers, the faded eyeliner. She looked like a ghost of the girl who used to flaunt designer bags and treat me like her personal assistant. I should have felt pity. Maybe a part of me did. But mostly I just felt distance. Like she was a stranger who vaguely reminded me of someone I used to know. I asked her flatly, "What do you want?" She flinched a little but didn't run. "I want to talk. Just talk. Mom's sick." Not like life-threatening or anything, just different. Sad all the time. She doesn't even leave the motel. And Ethan's trying, but he's lost. I think we all are. I considered her words, not with emotion, but with logic. Sadness wasn't new. It was just louder now that they didn't have me to muffle it with comfort. I nodded once, not out of agreement, but to signal I'd heard her. "You said you didn't come for money, but you're still asking for something. So let's be honest. What is it you really want?" She hesitated, then exhaled slowly. "I guess. I want to know if we ever have a shot at being a real family again, one that doesn't treat you like a paycheck." That stunned me for a second. Not because I believed it, but because she finally said it out loud. I let the silence sit between us before answering. "Maybe someday," I said, "but not today. Today, I'm choosing peace." I stepped past her and walked inside without looking back. She didn't follow. The next few days were quiet again. No emails, no letters, no surprise visitors. It felt like maybe, just maybe, the message had landed for real this time. I spent my mornings reading on the balcony, afternoons working on a personal project I had shelved for years, and nights learning how to cook things that weren't just survival meals. My therapist once told me that healing doesn't always come in grand declarations. Sometimes it shows up in the way you don't flinch when your phone rings, in the silence that no longer feels empty, in the freedom to take up space without apology. I was finally there. But just as I was starting to settle into that rhythm, a letter came in the mail, one that made me pause. It wasn't from any of them. It was from a lawyer. At first, I assumed it was junk mail, maybe some subscription or class action nonsense. But when I opened it, I saw my name, my family's names, and a proposal. My grandmother had passed away recently, and apparently there was a small inheritance being split. Nothing massive, but enough to catch attention. The letter included a clause one my mother had insisted on years ago during estate planning, that I be removed unless I demonstrated continued family commitment. I laughed out loud at that. It was such a her thing to do. Love was conditional. Family was transactional. Commitment, in her words, meant obedience. Paying rent. Showing up when she snapped her fingers. Staying quiet when things got ugly. The lawyer, though, had added a note. Based on recent changes and the absence of financial dependency, this clause may be contestable. Would you like to pursue this? I sat there, holding the paper, rereading that line. I didn't care about the money. I had made peace with walking away from more than that. But the principle of it? The idea that they tried to punish me from the grave? That they still wanted control, even posthumously? That lit something in me. Not rage, not bitterness, just a quiet resolve. I contacted the lawyer and said yes, I wanted to contest it. Not out of greed, but clarity. I wanted my name back, not for them, for me. A few weeks into the process, word got around. Ethan tried calling from an unknown number. I didn't answer. Then Harper emailed again, shorter this time. We know about the will. Please don't do this. It's going to tear what's left of us apart. I didn't respond, because what was left had already fallen to pieces long before lawyers got involved. They tore it apart the moment they laughed at me behind my back, the moment they planned how to cry on cue, the moment they made me the villain in a story I never even asked to be part of. The legal case was small, simple, and ultimately symbolic. It wasn't about what I'd win. It was about not letting them write me out without a fight. And when the final decision came, it was exactly what I expected. The clause was deemed unfair, outdated, rooted in personal bias. I was restored. A share was released to me. I donated half of it to a shelter that supports women escaping toxic households. The rest I used to start a small side business, something that had always been a dream, but never felt possible when I was funneling money into other people's problems. In that moment, something shifted. I stopped thinking of myself as the girl who left. I started thinking of myself as the woman who reclaimed. I didn't need their love. I didn't crave their approval. What I needed was space, choice, and the ability to breathe without guilt pressing down on my chest. One day, maybe years from now, they might look back and realize what they lost. Not the money, not the convenience, but the relationship they could have had if they treated me like a person instead of a lifeline. That realization isn't mine to deliver. It's theirs to live with. As for me, I've built something better than forgiveness. I've built distance. I've built boundaries that aren't made of anger but of clarity. Boundaries that say, I won't hurt you, but I won't save you either. And every day, I wake up knowing I'm free. Not just from them, from the version of me that thought love had to be earned through sacrifice. That version is gone, and I don't miss her. It was quiet again, but this time it felt final. No more phone calls from unfamiliar numbers. No emails with guilt-laced subject lines. No one waiting outside my building, pretending they just happened to be in the neighborhood. After I claimed my share of the inheritance and stayed silent, it was like they finally understood. I wasn't coming back. There wasn't going to be a last-minute rescue. No final act of grace to lift them from the hole they dug together. I think part of them had held on to that fantasy until the very end. That one day I'd remember who I used to be. The girl who flinched at the thought of saying no. The girl they could shame into submission with a sigh or a staged tear. But I had changed and they had not. That was the difference. I used to think change came like a lightning bolt, loud, dramatic, unforgettable. But for me, it came quietly, like water wearing down stone. Small decisions that stacked up, moments where I chose myself in the face of habit, until suddenly I couldn't recognize the version of me who ever begged for their approval. I had stopped checking the old family group thread, the one I left but hadn't deleted completely. I kept it, not because I wanted it, but because I wanted the reminder. Every once in a while, curiosity would nudge me, and I'd open it just to see if they'd ever figured out how to move on. But it was always empty. Then, one Sunday afternoon, a message appeared. Not to me, but in the group itself. It was from Ethan. Short, raw. She's not coming back. There were no replies, no arguments, no debate. Just that. A resignation. A sentence I think he meant more for them than for anyone else. I stared at it for a long time before finally deleting the entire thread from my phone. Not out of anger, not even out of relief. Just readiness. I didn't need a window into their downfall anymore. I had nothing left to prove. The side business I started with the inheritance slowly grew into something real. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't fast, but it was mine. I poured the energy I used to waste on them into something that gave back. I met people who respected boundaries instead of trying to bulldoze them. I learned how to accept help without feeling like I owed someone a piece of myself in return. That was new for me, receiving without guilt. One day, I caught myself laughing with someone at lunch, and it stopped me in my tracks. Not because laughter was rare, but because I realized it had been months since I laughed and thought about what someone else might want from me. That's how I knew I was healing. Not because I'd stopped remembering the past, but because it stopped owning me. Then, almost a year to the day after that phone call, the one where I told Mom I wouldn't be paying the rent anymore, I got a letter. This time, it wasn't begging or blaming. It was an invitation. Harper was getting married. I blinked when I saw it, surprised more than anything. I hadn't spoken to her in nearly 12 months. The envelope had no note, just the printed invitation and my name in gold script like nothing had ever happened. At first, I laughed. The audacity was familiar. But then I felt something else. Not anger, not sarcasm, just disappointment. Not at them, but at the part of me that still half expected an apology instead of a performance. I placed the invitation on the kitchen counter and left it there for a few days. I didn't have to think about it. I already knew I wouldn't go, but I wanted to give myself the space to feel all the things I thought I'd buried. Because even with everything they did, some small, battered part of me still hoped they'd learn how to love without strings. That part deserved closure too. I never responded. I didn't return the RSVP. I didn't block the address. I just let it be. And on the day of the wedding, I went for a hike. Alone. The sky was overcast and soft, the air cool enough to sting a little but not enough to bite. I climbed until I reached the ridge overlooking the valley. No traffic, no people, just me, the trees, and the wind. I stood there for a long time, thinking about nothing and everything. About the girl I used to be. About the woman I was now. About all the years I spent begging to belong, giving until I was hollow, mistaking exhaustion for loyalty. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I was just done. Done explaining myself to people who never really listened. Done waiting for them to see me the way I saw them. I had let go. A few days after the wedding, I got one last message. This time from Harper again. It was short. I wish things could have been different. I do. I believed her. But that didn't mean anything anymore. Wishing didn't change history. It didn't patch wounds or return time. It didn't undo the nights I cried alone after sending them my last few dollars. It didn't make up for the moments they mocked me when they thought I wasn't listening. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. That message wasn't a door, it was a memory, and I had already walked past it. These days, life is quiet. Not empty, just quiet. I still work, still build, still laugh, still dream. I have friends who know my real laugh, who know when I'm tired even before I say it. I keep fresh flowers on my kitchen table. I write every morning before the world gets too loud. I plant herbs on my windowsill. It's small, but it's mine. No one controls it. No one demands it. No one expects it to be anything more than what it is. That's freedom, I think. Not running away. Not even revenge. Just peace. Real, earned, grounded peace. Sometimes people ask me if I miss them. If I ever think about reaching out, I tell them the truth. I don't miss them. I miss the idea of what they could have been. The dream version of family, the one that shows up, gives without keeping score, loves without conditions. But I also know that holding on to a dream like that is how I got lost in the first place. I spent too many years trying to become someone they'd finally respect, only to realize that respect would never come because it was never about me. It was always about control. And I gave it up, piece by piece, thinking I was keeping the peace, not realizing I was only silencing myself. But not anymore. Now, I choose myself every single time. And if that makes me selfish in their eyes, so be it. Because I've learned that being selfish isn't the same as being cruel. It means knowing your worth. It means protecting your peace. It means drawing a line in the sand and saying this far, no further. I'm not your savior. I'm not your safety net. I'm not your scapegoat. I'm me. And I am finally, fully, unapologetically free. Story 2. I came home from college to visit. My bedroom was empty. "Oh," my mom said, "we gave it to your cousin. You can sleep on the couch." So I tossed my keys on the counter and said, "Actually, I'll sleep somewhere else." She thought I was joking until I walked right back out, and they had no idea where I was headed. I'm 22F, and I just finished my last semester of college. It was supposed to be a big deal for years of hard work, late night studying, juggling part-time jobs, and stretching every dollar just to make it through. I wasn't expecting a parade when I came home, but I thought my family might at least be happy to see me. My relationship with them had always been complicated. They never really understood why I wanted to go to college in the first place. To them, it was a waste of time and money. My mom especially didn't get it. She used to make little comments like, "I don't know why you're working yourself so hard when you could just get a decent job here," or "You're not one of those stuck-up career types now, are you still?" When she called and invited me home for the weekend, sounding genuinely excited, I thought just for a second that maybe things were different now, that maybe after 4 years they'd finally started to respect the choices I made for myself. The drive home was long but familiar. 3.5 hours of highways, back roads, and old songs I used to love. I found myself thinking about my room, the one thing in that house that had always been mine, the thought of sinking into my old bed. Staring up at the glow-in-the-dark stars I stuck on the ceiling when I was 10 gave me a weird sense of comfort. But the second I stepped inside, something felt off. It wasn't anything obvious at first, just a weird feeling. The air in the house felt different, like it didn't quite belong to me anymore. I glanced around and noticed little things. Things I didn't recognize. A pair of men's shoes by the door, bigger than my dad's. A hoodie draped over the back of the couch that I'd never seen before. Then my mom appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "There's my college girl," she chirped. Her smile was too wide to practice, like she was trying too hard to act normal. I gave her a small smile, still adjusting to the feeling that something was off. "Hey, Mom." She pulled me into a quick hug before stepping back and clapping her hands together. "We've made some changes," she announced. Like this was some kind of game show reveal. I barely had time to process that before she turned and started walking down the hall, expecting me to follow. I hesitated. "Changes." "Oh, nothing major," she said over her shoulder. "Just some rearranging, you'll see." Something uneasy twisted in my gut as I stepped into the hallway. It looked the same. Same worn-out carpet, same family pictures on the wall. But as I got closer to my bedroom door, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The door was open, and my room wasn't my room anymore. The walls were a different color, the deep blue I had carefully picked out as a teenager was now an impersonal beige. The posters I taped up, the bookshelf filled with novels I'd collected since middle school. The old stuffed bear I kept on my bed. They were gone. Everything was gone. Instead, there was a different bed, a bigger one. A different desk was pushed up against the far wall. A duffel bag sat open on the floor. Clothes spilling out. A pair of sneakers. Huge sneakers were kicked off near the closet. It took a second for my brain to catch up with what I was looking at. Someone else was living in my room. I turned slowly, my mouth dry. "What is this?" My mom was standing in the doorway, watching me carefully. "Oh," she said with a little laugh, waving a hand like this was no big deal. "We gave you room, Zach, my cousin. The one I barely saw growing up. The one who bounced from one job to another. He was always making excuses for why life wasn't fair to him. The one my mom had always insisted we had to be patient with, because he's just going through a rough patch." I stared at her, waiting for some kind of punchline, for some kind of "just kidding." But she just kept smiling like this was normal. I let out a breath, forcing my voice to stay calm. "You gave my room to Zach?" she nodded. "Well, honey, you don't live here anymore." It didn't make sense to keep the room empty. I felt a strange, heavy pressure in my chest, like something was sinking inside me. She kept going, like this was the most reasonable thing in the world. "You know how hard things have been for him. He just needed a place to stay." And we thought, well, since you're off at school, I barely heard the rest of what she said. My ears were ringing for years. For years of struggling, pushing myself, doing everything on my own, and the second I was out of the house, they erased me like I had never lived here at all. She must have noticed the look on my face because she quickly added, "You can sleep on the couch. It's only for a little while. I knew you wouldn't mind." That was it. That was the moment. Something in me just snapped. I took a slow step back, gripping my keys. Actually, I said, voice steady, I'll sleep somewhere else. Her smile faltered. What? Don't be ridiculous. But I didn't answer. I turned, walked right back down the hall, grabbed my bag, and headed for the front door. I could hear her calling after me, something about not making a scene. But I didn't stop. I didn't even look back. I didn't even fully process what I was doing until I was already in my car. The door slammed shut behind me. My hands were still clenched around the steering wheel, knuckles white. My breath felt uneven, like I had just finished running, even though I hadn't moved more than a few steps. I sat there for a long moment, staring at the dashboard. Where was I even going? I hadn't planned for this. In my head, I had pictured coming home and sleeping in my bed. Maybe even getting some kind of lukewarm acknowledgement from my family that they were, proud of me, that they had missed me. Instead, they had wiped me out of the house like I was never there, like I was some temporary guest rather than their daughter. I glanced back toward the house. The lights from the front porch cast a dim glow across the yard, and through the window I could see movement. My mom still standing near the front door, probably waiting for me to cool off and come back inside like I was being dramatic. Like this was normal. I turned the key in the ignition and backed out of the driveway. I had no idea where I was going. The streets were quiet, just the occasional street lamp flickering as I passed. I kept driving half on autopilot, letting my mind race through the events of the last 15 minutes. They had given my room to Zach, who had never held a steady job for more than a few months. Zach, who had spent most of his adult life couch hopping because he couldn't manage to keep his life together, and yet he was the one they made space for, not me. I tightened my grip on the wheel, my jaw clenching. It wasn't even just about the room, it was the principle of it. The way my mom had acted like this was no big deal. Like it was just common sense to give away the only space I had ever truly called my own. I checked my phone, half considering calling a friend, but it was late. Most of the people I was still close with from high school had either moved away or were wrapped up in their own lives. The few college friends I had lived hours away. I could get a motel, but the thought of spending money just because my own family had kicked me out of my space made my stomach turn. Then, almost without thinking, I found myself turning onto a familiar street, Ezra's house. I hadn't talked to him much in the past few months. We have been close all through high school, the kind of friendship that felt like it would last forever. But college happened, and life got in the way. We had kept in touch here and there. Occasional texts, a few video calls when we had the time, but I hadn't seen him in person in over a year. Still, when I pulled up outside his house, I felt an odd sense of relief. His car was in the driveway, which meant he was home. I hesitated for a moment before stepping out and walking up to the front door. The porch light was on, casting a dim glow across the worn-out welcome mat. I knocked, then took a step back, suddenly unsure if this was a good idea. A few seconds passed, then the door creaked open. Ezra stood there, squinting at me like he couldn't quite believe what he was seeing. His hair was messier than usual, like he had been half asleep, and he was wearing an old hoodie that I vaguely recognized from years ago. Did I hit my head, or are you actually standing on my porch right now? I let out a weak laugh, but it came out more like a breath. Hey, Ezra. He blinked, looking me up and down. Then his expression shifted. His easygoing demeanor falters just slightly. Are you okay? I exhaled. Not really for a second. He didn't say anything, just looked at me, taking in whatever mess was probably all over my face. Then he sighed and stepped aside. Come in. I hesitated, glancing back toward my car, but the idea of driving around aimlessly again made my stomach churn, so I nodded and stepped inside. The house smelled like something slightly burnt, probably whatever late-night snack Ezra had been making before I showed up at his door. The living room was the same as I remembered it, cluttered but comfortable. A half-empty mug sat on the coffee table, and a game controller was tossed onto the couch like he had abandoned it mid-session. He closed the door behind me, crossing his arms as he studied my face. All right, he said, his voice quieter now. What happened? I hesitated, suddenly unsure how to explain all of it. But then, before I could even stop myself, the words started spilling out. Ezra didn't interrupt me once. I sat on his couch, hands gripping my knees, and just let it all out. The call from my mom Hell, I actually thought for once that maybe she was happy to see me. The drive home, the weird feeling when I walked in. The moment I saw my room, my things were gone, like I had never existed there. I expected him to react right away, to say something sharp or sarcastic, but instead he just sat there, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees, listening. By the time I finished, my throat felt tight, my hands still tense in my lap. Ezra exhaled slowly. "Well," he finally said, He shook his head. "That's messed up." I scoffed. "Yeah, a little bit." He sat back, rubbing his jaw. "They didn't even tell you beforehand?" "Nope." I leaned back into the couch, pressing my palms over my face. They acted like it was just a natural next step. Like, "Oh, of course my room should go to Zach. Of course I wouldn't mind. I don't live there anymore, so why would I care?" Ezra was quiet for a second, and when I looked at him, his jaw was tight. That's not how normal parents treat their kid, you know. I let out a humorless laugh. "Yeah, well, my parents never really followed the parenting manual." He shook his head, muttering something under his breath before looking back at me. "What's their deal with Zach anyway? I mean, I remember him being kind of a loser, but this is next level." That was the question, wasn't it? I shrugged. But the truth was, I knew I had always known. They've always babied him. I admitted. I don't know why. I guess because he's just helpless. He messed up, and they swoop in to fix it. He wastes money, and they cover for him. He loses a job, and they understand. I paused, staring down at my hands. They've never done that for me. Ezra frowned. "Because you don't need them to." I let out a short breath. Exactly. That was the heart of it, wasn't it? I had never needed them. Not the way Zach did. I had always taken care of myself, worked for my own money, and solved my own problems. When I told them I wanted to go to college, they laughed and said, "Good luck with that." When I got in, they barely reacted. And when I left, it was almost like they just forgot about me. Ezra leaned back, tapping his fingers against his knee. So what now? That was the real question. I had nowhere to go. Not long term anyway. I could crash at a motel. But that felt like admitting defeat. I could try to stay with another friend, but most of them had moved on, scattered across different cities, different lives. I exhaled. I don't know. Ezra was quiet for a second, then sighed. "You can stay here." I blinked. "What?" He shrugged like it wasn't a big deal. "Stay here, at least until you figure things out for a second." I didn't know what to say. It was tempting. Safer than a motel. More comfortable than bouncing from place to place. But I also knew my mom. She wasn't going to let this go. As if on cue, my phone burst. I glanced at the screen. "Mom." Ezra must have seen my face change because he raised an eyebrow. "I'm guessing that's her." I swallowed. "Yeah, I'm going to answer." I hesitated, staring at the screen. The vibration buzzed against my palm. I already knew what she was going to say. That I was overreacting. That I was being selfish. That I was embarrassing them by making a big deal out of nothing. But I didn't owe her an explanation. I silenced the call and set the phone face down on the table. Ezra smirked. "Nice." I let out a slow breath. She's not done, though. And I was right, because 20 minutes later, the calls started coming in waves. First my mom, then my dad, then of all people, Zach. I ignored them all. I wasn't surprised when I heard the knock on the door the next morning. I was sitting at Ezra's kitchen table, sipping a cup of coffee and scrolling through my phone, fully expecting this. Ezra was still half asleep, sitting across from me in the hoodie he'd thrown on last night, eyes barely open as he poked at a bowl of cereal. The knock came again. Ezra raised an eyebrow at them. I sighed, setting my coffee down. Who else? I got up and went to the door. Sure enough, when I peeked through the people, I saw my mom standing on the porch, arms crossed, looking like she had been waiting for hours. I opened the door just enough to step into the doorway, blocking her view inside. She didn't even wait for a greeting. "What do you think you're doing?" she hissed. I blinked. "Good morning to you too." Her lips pressed into a thin line. Enough with the attitude. "You didn't come home last night." I folded my arms. "Yeah, I figured since you gave away my room, I didn't have to check in like a child." Her jaw clenched, and I saw the exact moment she realized I wasn't going to back down. That threw her off. She was used to me keeping my head down, avoiding confrontation. "Well," she said, voice tight, "you could have at least stayed to talk about it instead of storming off." I let out a short laugh. "Talk about what? You made the decision without me. What was there to discuss?" Mom huffed, shifting her weight. "You don't even live there anymore. It just made sense. Zach needed a place to stay. And you're off at college? I come home. I cut in, or at least I used to. But clearly you didn't care about that. She exhaled sharply through her nose like she was barely holding on to her patience. You're being dramatic. There it was, the classic dismissal. I clenched my jaw, keeping my voice calm. No, I'm not. You didn't even tell me. You just erased me like I was never there. Mom threw her hands up. It's a room. Don't be so selfish. Zach needed a place, and we did what was best for the family. The family? The phrase hit me harder than I expected because that's what it always came down to, didn't it? The family. The one I apparently wasn't a part of. I stared at her for a long moment. Then I shook my head. Well, what? I let out a breath. Stepping back slightly. You really don't see it, do you? You have been bending over backwards for Zach his entire life, and you've never done the same for me. You gave him my room because he's your priority, not me. Mom's face darkened. That's not true, is it? I gave her a pointed look. Name? One time you helped me the way you help him. She opened her mouth, then closed it. No answer. I scoffed. Exactly. Her frustration turned to anger. This isn't about favoritism. Zach needed a home, and we gave it to him at my expense. You're gone for most of the year. What do you expect us to do? Leave it empty. I expect you to respect me enough to tell me before throwing my stuff in storage. She rolled her eyes. We didn't throw it away. Oh, thank you so much for that, I said dryly. Her jaw tightened. Look, I came here to bring you home. Enough with this tantrum. I let out a short laugh, shaking my head. I'm not coming back. That made her freeze. She blinked. What? I'm done. My voice was steady. You made it clear where I stand in this family, and I finally get it. So, no, I'm not coming back. Keep the room. Keep Zach. I'll figure out my own life. Mom looked stunned, like she had expected me to yell, to break down, to lash out. But I was just done. You're overreacting. She tried it again, but her voice wasn't as confident now. I smiled faintly. No, I'm just finally seeing things for what they are. I turned to step back inside, but she grabbed my arm. You can't just leave, she said, her voice lower now, almost panicked. We're your family. I pulled my arm away. Yeah, you should have acted like it. And with that, I stepped back inside and shut the door in her face. So here's where I'm at now. I'm staying at Ezra's place. My mom keeps calling, but I'm not answering. She showed up this morning, and we had a long conversation about everything. But it was clear that she still doesn't get it. She thinks I'm overreacting, that I should just suck it up and come back home. But I've had enough. I've been the one who worked hard to get where I am. I've been the one who made sacrifices, who made sure I didn't rely on anyone to take care of me. Meanwhile, Zach keeps getting a free pass, and I'm just supposed to be okay with it. I'm not going back to that house, but I'm starting to wonder, am I the asshole for leaving? Should I just swallow my pride and let things go? My mom is convinced that I'm making this a bigger deal than it really is, but I feel like I've been pushed to my limit. Let me know your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more content. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done in this situation? I'd love to hear your take. Story 3. So this all started about a week before Christmas. The first 24 was looking forward to spending the holiday with my family, something we've always done. Yeah, there's some tension, but nothing that would make me think they'd just leave me out. I get a text from my mom the day before Christmas Eve saying, "Hey, sorry, but we're gonna have to cancel dinner tomorrow due to some last-minute changes. We'll do it next year, okay?" I was disappointed. Of course, we've done Christmas dinners for years, and while things weren't perfect, it was family. But fine, okay, it happens. I didn't think much of it until the next day. I had to run some errands, so I wasn't home much. When I got back, my phone was blowing up with notifications. Turns out one of the older relatives, let's call her Aunt Linda, had posted a ton of photos from the family dinner on Facebook. What's the problem with that, you ask? Well, and Linda doesn't know how social media works, and posted the pictures publicly. That means everyone, including me, could see them. The worst part, they were all having the best Christmas dinner, laughing, toasting, exchanging gifts, everything I would have been a part of if my mom hadn't conveniently canceled the dinner for me. I sat there staring at the photos, my heart sinking at the words "best Christmas ever." With smiling faces and kids playing in the background, the whole family gathered around the table. except for me. I snapped. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through the images that were of my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, and even my mom all enjoying the meal they lied about. My phone buzzed with a message from my mom, as if she didn't already know I'd seen it. "Hey honey, sorry about Christmas. We'll do something next year, I promise. Love you." I couldn't believe it. I was furious, no more than furious. Angry doesn't even cover it. They had excluded me on purpose. This was planned. I knew it. It wasn't a last-minute change. It was a deliberate decision. My mom had probably convinced the rest of them not to invite me. And I bet they didn't even feel guilty about it. Hell, it was probably her idea from the start. As I stood over this, I got another message, this time from my mom. She said she wanted to talk and called me right after. I didn't even want to answer, but I did. "Hey honey, how are you? I know you must be upset, but it's really for the best. Trust me," she said, sounding all sweet like she hadn't just ruined my Christmas. I could feel my blood boiling. I had to hold back from just screaming into the phone. Instead, I said, "Oh, really? For the best. You canceled dinner on me and then had the audacity to post those pictures online like nothing happened. You think I'm just supposed to sit here and be okay with it?" She didn't seem to take me seriously at all. "Sweetie, I just thought it'd be easier this way. You've been so busy with work, and I didn't want to stress you out. You know how things get. We'll make it up next year." That was the last straw. I've always been the one who tries to keep the peace, who bends over backward for my family. But not anymore. They messed with the wrong person this time. Now I'm planning my revenge. And believe me, I'm going to make sure they regret this. But here's the kicker. I haven't told them anything yet. They still think I'm just sitting around sulking. They have no idea what's coming. I spent the next couple of days just stewing in anger every time I thought about how they treated me. It made my blood boil. I couldn't believe it all. Just go along with it like it was nothing. What kind of family does that to someone? But then it hit me. This wasn't just about Christmas dinner anymore. This was about me taking back control. They thought they could push me aside, leave me out, and I just take it. Well, not anymore. I started plotting. The first thing I did was unfollow every single one of them on social media. I didn't want to see their smug holiday posts anymore, but I needed a way to turn this around. So I went back to Aunt Linda's public Facebook album. Yeah, the one she had no clue was public, and started screenshotting everything. Every photo, every caption, every smiling face, all posted to the world for anyone to see. Then I made a plan. I knew that if I wanted to really get under their skin, I'd have to make this public too. So I started working on a post of my own. But this wasn't just about embarrassing them. It was about showing them that I was done being their doormat. I wasn't going to play the victim, not anymore. Instead, I was going to let everyone see exactly what kind of people they were. I crafted the perfect post, a little witty, a little sarcastic, and just the right amount of bitterness. Here's what I wrote. "Hey everyone. So Christmas was apparently canceled at my house this year, or so I was told. But it seems like my family had a totally different idea of what canceled means. Check out all the photos from their last-minute changes. Christmas dinner because apparently I'm just not invited anymore. Best Christmas ever, right? It looks like they saved all the food, presents, and good times for everyone else. I just thought I'd let you all in on the holiday fun I missed out on this year. Merry Christmas to me, I guess. Family drama #left out. I made sure to tag every single one of them. And I didn't just post on Facebook. No, I wanted to make sure they saw it everywhere. So I shared it to Instagram too and tagged them there as well. I knew this would send shockwaves through the family, especially since my mom's whole thing was pretending everything was perfect for everyone else. So I didn't expect them to call right away. But sure enough, within minutes, my phone was buzzing. It was my mom I didn't pick up. I knew if I did, I'd lose control. So I let it ring. Then came a message from my cousin Rachel, who was apparently concerned about how I was feeling. Cousin Rachel asked, "What's going on? Why are you doing this? It's just Christmas. We didn't mean to hurt you." I couldn't help but laugh. They were all acting like I was the one who was overreacting. I started typing a reply, but then deleted it. No, I wasn't going to waste my energy explaining myself to them. This was their problem now. Then came a text from my mom again. She was starting to panic. Mom said, "I don't know what you're trying to do, but this isn't the way to fix things. We're family. Please, let's talk." I had to admit the sheer nerve of her was impressive. After everything they did, Now she was trying to turn the tables and play the victim. Unbelievably. I waited a few hours before responding. I didn't want to seem too eager. I had to keep the pressure on. And when I finally replied, I kept it simple. I replied, "It's funny because I thought I was family too, but I guess that doesn't count for anything anymore." Then I just left it at that. The ball was in their court, and I wasn't going to make the first move this time. The messages kept coming. My mom, Rachel, and even my aunt. But I didn't respond. I just let them stew. The next day, the family group chat lit up. My mom was angry. She wanted to know why I had aired our dirty laundry on social media. I knew this was the moment where things would either go up in flames or I'd have them right where I wanted them. The texts were flying fast, but I stayed calm. Mom asked me, "What is wrong with you? You're causing drama and making this worse for everyone." I just couldn't help it. I was done with them pretending to be perfect. I was done letting them walk all over me. I responded, "Drama? No, Mom. What's wrong is the way you've treated me for years. Don't try to spin this and make it my fault. You canceled Christmas on me, and now you want to act like I'm the one who ruined everything? Maybe it's time you took a hard look at what you've done." And with that, I hit send. The moment I hit send, I could feel the weight of what I'd just done. It wasn't just a text. It was a declaration, a challenge. And I knew that they'd be coming at me hard after this. I wasn't scared, though. No, I was feeling more alive than I had in months. The group chat exploded right away. Mom texted, "This is what you wanted, to ruin our family over dinner. You think this will make things better?" Uncle Mark texted, "You've gone too far. This isn't the way to handle things. Your mom worked hard to make Christmas special, and you're just making a mess of it." And there it was. The classic, "It's all your fault." Defense. Every time they messed up, they found a way to blame me for their actions. I wasn't falling for it anymore. I knew they were trying to guilt trip me into backing down, but I wasn't budging. But then my mom's text came through again. This time it was different. It wasn't angry, it was apologetic. Mom texted, "Please, let's just talk. We can't keep doing this. You're my daughter. I love you, but you're pushing us all away." I stared at the screen, holding my breath for a moment. I knew she was trying to soften me up, trying to make me feel guilty, but I had no intention of letting her off the hook that easily. Not after everything they'd done. I typed out a message. But this time I took my time. I wasn't just going to snap back this time. I was going to make them sweat. I replied, "You know, it's funny you say that because I thought family was supposed to be there for each other, but apparently I was wrong. Maybe I am pushing you away. But you're right. This isn't just about Christmas. It's about the way you've treated me for years. The way you've always put me second. I'm done being a part of that." I could almost feel the tension building as I read over my message. I wasn't sure if they'd try to keep guilt-tripping me or if they'd just give up, but I was done. A few minutes later, the phone rang. I didn't answer. I wasn't ready to talk yet. Then came a voice message. It was from my mom. "I don't know what's going on with you, but this isn't you. Please call me back. Let's sort this out. We're family." Remember? The voice message was so soft, almost pleading. It almost made me feel bad. But then I remembered all the years of feeling left out, all the times they'd done this to me. And I realized something. I wasn't the one who needed to make it right, that I didn't respond. Instead, I sat back and watched the messages pile up, my phone buzzing with each one. They were all scrambling now, trying to salvage what was left of their perfect little holiday. A couple of hours later, I got a notification from Facebook. My mom had posted a long, dramatic status. It read, "It's been a tough year, and I know things aren't perfect, but we need to come together as a family. I love you. Please, let's talk. This isn't the way to handle things." There it was again. The guilt, the attempt to twist the narrative. She was trying to paint herself as the victim, trying to make everyone think I was being unreasonable. But she didn't know what I had planned next. Because here's the thing, they had no idea how deep this was going to cut. They thought I'd just let it go, like always. They thought they could cancel me out of their lives, and I just accepted it. But I wasn't just going to let this slide. I had one more move left to play. The next morning, I woke up to find that my mom had taken down her post, but I had already saved it. I screenshot that entire status, along with the comments from everyone telling me I needed to fix things. Then I sent the screenshot to all of my mom's friends. Everyone who had commented about how perfect our family was. Everyone who had seen her post and believed her story. I didn't just stop there though. I posted the screenshots on my own page, tagging her. I made sure everyone knew exactly what kind of family I was dealing with. The next time my mom tried to call me, I didn't pick up. Instead, I left a message. Your attempt to make me the villain. Not going to work. Let's see how long your perfect family lasts. Now that everyone knows the truth, the hours after I posted that screenshot felt like an eternity. I was watching my phone like a hawk, waiting for any kind of response. And sure enough, it came. My mom texted me again, but this time it was different. The message was cold, almost businesslike. Mom texted, "I don't know what you think you're accomplishing by dragging our private family matters into public, but you've crossed a line. Don't expect to be part of any family events moving forward. You've made your choice." I felt a chill run down my spine. She was really doing this. She was cutting me off. Just like that. But instead of feeling crushed, I felt empowered. I had exposed the truth, and now they were scrambling to keep their perfect image intact. I didn't respond to her text right away. I just let it sit there, lingering. I had more important things to do. The following day, I woke up to dozens of messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. Family, friends, extended family. People who had been kept in the dark about what was really going on in our family. Some of the messages were supportive. "I had no idea they treated you like that. I'm so sorry. You deserve so much better." Others were more judgmental, telling me I was making a mistake by airing family drama. "You've gone too far. This is family business, not something to post online." But none of that mattered to me anymore. The floodgates had opened, and I wasn't going to close them. For the first time in ages, I felt like I had control over my life. It wasn't about winning their approval anymore. It was about standing up for myself. Then came a call from my aunt, the one who had innocently posted all those photos. I wasn't sure if I should answer, but I did anyway, curious to hear what she had to say. And Linda said, "I don't know what you're doing, but your mom is really upset. She's telling everyone that you've ruined Christmas and made the family look bad. Honestly, I thought we could work this out in private." I bit my lip, trying to keep my cool. She had no idea what had been happening behind closed doors, but she did play a part in it. So I wasn't about to sugarcoat things. I responded, "Aunt Linda, maybe you should have thought about that before you posted the photos online. You've made it pretty clear what kind of family I'm dealing with. If you're so worried about how this makes us look, maybe you should have told my mom to stop treating me like I don't matter." There was a long pause on the other end. I could hear the gears turning in her head as she processed my words. And Linda said, "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I just wanted everyone to be happy." I replied, "You didn't mean for it to happen, but you didn't think about the consequences either. And now I'm left dealing with all of this alone." "It?" Linda sighed, her voice tinged with guilt. And Linda said, "Maybe we all made mistakes, but the way you've handled this, it's just not fair to your mom. She's heartbroken." I had to laugh bitterly. I wasn't the one breaking hearts here, but I knew I had to be careful. This wasn't just about getting them to apologize. It was about proving I didn't need them anymore. I replied, "If she's heartbroken, it's because she's realizing that I'm not just going to let her walk all over me anymore. Tell her to stop pretending to be the victim." I hung up before she could say anything else. The satisfaction of hanging up felt good. It felt right. And I knew there was one more step I had to take. That night, I went back to the post I'd made on Facebook. I'd already been getting messages, but I wanted to stir the pot a little more. I wanted to make sure they couldn't just sweep this under the rug. I edited the post. I added a little something extra to all the people telling me that family drama shouldn't be posted online. You're absolutely right. But when my family treats me like I'm invisible and then tries to cover it up with perfect holiday photos, that's the kind of thing the world should see. I'm tired of being the one who gets stepped on. So here's the truth. And just like that, I pressed send. This time I knew there was no going back. I leaned back in my chair, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. I had to expose the truth. They couldn't take it back. And even if they tried to make me the bad guy, I knew the world would see it for what it was. Within minutes, the messages started coming in. Mom texted, "You've made your choice. Don't come crawling back when you realize you've lost your family." Rachel texted, "I don't know why you're doing this, but you need to stop before you ruin everything." But I wasn't backing down. I had already made my peace. They weren't going to control me anymore. For the first time in my life, I felt free. The weight of years of emotional manipulation, guilt-tripping, and being the family scapegoat had been lifted. They wanted to pretend I didn't exist. Fine. I would make sure they remembered me for exactly who I was. The one who refused to be treated like garbage. I put my phone on silent and sat down with a cup of coffee, staring out the window. It was snowing lightly, the streetlights casting a warm glow on the quiet neighborhood. Somewhere, other families were enjoying their Christmas leftovers, laughing and exchanging gifts, creating real memories with people who actually cared about each other. I had spent years wishing for that kind of family, but now I realized I didn't need them. That night, I decided to take things a step further. I gathered every text, every message, every passive-aggressive guilt trip my family had ever sent me, and compiled them into one final post. Except this time, it wasn't for Facebook. I sent it directly to every extended family member, every family friend, and every mutual connection my mom had cultivated over the years to maintain her perfect image. No caption, no explanation. Just the raw, ugly truth that I knew exactly what would happen next. My mom would scramble to do damage control. She would spin the story to make herself the victim. How I had lashed out, how I had ruined Christmas, how I had driven a wedge between us. But it didn't matter. The people who mattered would see through it, and the ones who didn't, I didn't need them anyway. The next morning, my phone was flooded with responses. Some were shocked. Some apologized for not realizing how bad it had been. Some defended my mom, saying she was just trying her best. But the best message came from an unexpected source, my cousin Emily. Emily and I had never been particularly close. She had always been the golden child, the one who got everything handed to her. But her message was short and to the point. I had no idea. I'm so sorry, you don't deserve this. If you ever need family, you've got me. That was it. That was all I needed to see. I replied with a simple thank you. And then I blocked my mother. I blocked my sister. I blocked every single person who had chosen to side with them. And just like that, I was free. The silence was deafening at first, but then I realized it wasn't silence. It was peace. I made myself breakfast, played some music, and started looking up flights. I had always wanted to take a solo trip. Somewhere new, somewhere exciting, maybe Europe, maybe South America. It didn't matter. For the first time in my life, I was making choices for me, and I wasn't looking back. Update. Hey everyone. I thought I'd drop a quick update since it's been a year. Long story short, I've never been happier. Cutting them off was the best decision I've ever made. I spent the past year traveling, meeting new people, and actually enjoying life without the constant stress of family drama hanging over me. I found a great job, moved to a new place, and even made real friends once. Who actually cares about me? As for my family, well, karma has been working overtime. Turns out, without me around as their scapegoat, they started turning on each other. My sister and mom had a massive falling out, no surprise there. And from what I've heard through the grapevine, a lot of extended family members don't trust them anymore. After seeing the receipts I posted last year, mom tried to play the victim. But people weren't buying it. They reached out a few times. Empty apologies, guilt-tripping, the usual. But I never responded. They made their choice. This Christmas, I'm spending it with people who actually want me around. And for the first time, it really is the best Christmas ever. No regrets.